brothers and sisters. Hamjambo. Bwana asifiwe sana.
Amen.
Yangu si mengi. So as you heard, my name is Mutava Musyemi. I became a Christian when I was in Form 3 through the ministry of the late Joe Kyle. I'm an Anglican by upbringing. I was baptized as an infant in Kirinyaga, a place called Mutava, many years ago, and later confirmed in Musyemi by Bishop Kariuki. So I'm an Anglican, but I've also been very involved in the charismatic movement when I was in high school and also in university. And thereafter I served at Nairobi Baptist Church for 14 years as pastor. Then General Secretary of NCC came, and then in Parliament we've done so, and many others. I'll tell you this, ministry is a privilege, and I keep at it. I remember one time after university, I had a very deep call to ministry, and I resigned my job. I was 23 years old, and my parents were very discouraged. But the only way to survive, I left my nice flat and went to Umwani Boys Hostel. And I was sharing a double-decker with somebody. I was paying 150 shillings so that I could do what I felt God was leading me to do. And I was there for quite some time until an elder of Nairobi Baptist Church, the late Professor Stephen Talitwana, former Vice Chancellor of Desta, heard about it and he came for me. And I stayed with him. And I don't want to say too much, so when I hear that we are preaching and making sacrifices, that is our calling. Let us serve the Lord, but above all, let us live lives that commend the gospel to the people that we preach to. And I thank Bishop Patrick Mugai for sharing that today. I've listened very carefully to what has been said. I get the sense, rightly or wrongly, you want to have your own bail, right? Am I right? You want to have your own bail. Let's just tuongee kinanga ubaga.
Yeah.
You want to have your own bail. Okay. If that is the case, then I will ignore a lot of what I was going to say today, because it will not be relevant. But suffice to say this, whichever bill you have, whether it starts through the Senate, or it is a private member, or it comes through yourselves, through a member of parliament, the president, by law, is part of the law-making process. We took on the British system. No law becomes law unless King Charles signs it into law. It has gone through the House of Commons, the House of Lords. It must be signed by the monarch to be law. So he is part of the law-making process. The President, William Ruto, is part of that process. Of course, he has an Attorney General who works under him, and before whom bills file up. Kuna foleni za miswada huko. They queue up. But the Attorney General works for the President. So he can sort out that queue through a telephone call. Kwa sababu serikali wakati yake. Are we together? Mm-hmm. So he is the person you went to see in State House is part of the lawmaking process. And we can do all this work. Na ifike hapo, na aseme, muswada, this needs to be repaired, this needs to be karabati hii. Now unajua, once he speaks, Danson will tell you, you need a certain percentage. 2/3 to disagree with him. So you can go and see that things need to be repaired, and they are not done, and that bill collapses. Am I right, Danson? So he is part of the law-making process. And if I was to speak as a clergyman, as a fellow clergyman, which is what I am, do you know what the president wants? That's where I would start in terms of strategy. You met him. Do you have an idea what he wants? Kuna siasa nyingi sana. Siasa imeanza, usifikirie haijaanza, imeanza. And this may not be a priority in terms of the politics. The kalenda ya siasa inaanza kubadilika, mambo ingine ikiingia, so that a matter like this that was priority wakati wa Shakahola begins to go to the back seat. So my question is, do we know where the president sits on this matter? Wale ambao mnaongea na yeye. He wants to leave a legacy, and the church being part of it. Now, you will notice, you may not agree with the recommendations we made, but there is something that what Danson is saying and I'm saying, there's a commonality. You notice Danson bill, because it bears his name, it was a religious organizations bill. Our bill was a religious organizations bill. He is a legislator. I'm a former legislator. We served together, I think, for 5 years. I was there for 10 years. If you take something to the Parliament of Kenya, it must carry the other religions. Because how will it go through the relevant departmental committees? If it doesn't carry the other religions, the Hindus, the Muslims, and so on. Am I right, Danson? That question will arise. So tukisema ati tunataka bill ya kanisa, my question is, hata hii kanisa tunasema kanisa, there are sections of the church that are not here. Kweli wrong? The Catholic Church is not here. Are we here, Catholic Church? The Anglican Church? Methodist? Presbyterian? SDA? That is part of the church. So if we want to talk about charismatic churches or Pentecostal churches, let us just be honest. Tuongee kina ubaga. Tuseme ni yetu lakini tunatumia jina kanisa. I like to be honest with people. Kama unanijua, kama unanifahamu. So when you call it church, you are a part of the church. Na hiyo si madharau, ni ukweli. There are other sections of the body of Christ that are not here, and that is a fact. Are we together?
Yeah.
So, make up your mind. If you want a church bill, then engage other churches, because italeta shida. Yule rais mnaongea habari yake, mkienda kumuona atauliza Catholics wako wapi, Anglicans wako wapi, Methodists wako wapi, Presbyterians wako wapi, SDA wako wapi, ACCNS wako wapi. Mnanisikia? So that's a decision we need to make. But I would be even more keen to suggest, find out what the president wants. Because he is the president of everybody. Alikuwa huko Northeastern the other day for 5 days. Is the church the strongest denomination huko? Si anahitaji kura zao pia? Wengi huko si mtini wa dini nyingine? That is what is going to be president. And that man is part of the law-making process. And that is a fact. Sasa kama mnataka ni wape porojo mingi, sitakuwa ni wasaidia. I was general secretary of NCCK. I was a pastor. I care for the church. I would die for the church. But I was also a member of parliament. A member of the Legal Affairs Committee. And I know how laws are made because I was there. I was chairman of the Land Committee. All the land laws you have came through our hands. I was chairman of the Budget Committee for 5 years. All the bills, the appropriations bill, the division of revenue bill, they came. I could sign the bill. Inatoka kwangu inaenda kwa Uhuru, and assign it becomes law. Money begins to flow to government. So that is the president you are talking about. So I would advise the lawyers na wale wengine. Nendeni mketi chini mkisema kama hii mswada ni ya kanisa yote iko hapa leo. Or is it a section of the mwanze kazi which goes nowhere? You know. How do I make this point without sounding arrogant? If you sound arrogant, but I am telling you the truth. And the God knows I am telling you the truth. So that you don't work with false expectations. Because you will be very disappointed. And you'll ask, Mutava Musyemi came, why didn't he tell us the truth? Because he understands about umbrella bodies. He ran one for 14 years. And he was in parliament. He is a pastor. Why didn't he tell us the truth? So, the man that we are saying is the president, he is part of the law-making process. And he can say no. Karabati hii, karabati hii. Na mkikataa, isipofika hiyo threshold, inapotea. What else do I want to say without discouraging you? Because I can tell what's going on in your heart. You know that Apostle Isaac Mwangi, December 4th, ako wapi ametoka kidogo. December 4th. And then he called me, I think, the other day, so I had saved his number. We met at All Saints Cathedral. And I picked the phone. He's a fellow pastor. He invited me, so I was here at 9. And I'm still here, and I'll be here as long as I need to be here. So let me just find out what else do I need to not bother you with that is not important. In our bill, let me say one or two things about the bill, and then make a point and sit down. We recommended a specific law that is dedicated to religious organizations, not just the church, and I'm a churchman, but I've also been a lawmaker. And I know if I call it a church bill, it will go nowhere. Not in parliament. The parliament is the parliament of the Republic of Kenya. Watu wote hata atheist wako hapo. Mnanielewa? So we recommended a religious organizations bill, not a church bill. The same as Danson Mukatana. That's a legislator talking. We talked about an umbrella organizations for purposes of self-regulations. We were clear. Self-regulation is necessary because if you don't self-regulate, you will be regulated by government. There are things that government can't just sit and watch. I remember because we visited all the 47 counties, we were in water. And I don't know how Kipuna Kewana heard about this. And he called me. He had been governor there in Makueni for I think 2 terms and did a wonderful job. And he said, Mutava, tell the religious leaders the way they are seeing Christianity, especially Shakahola, has painted a very shocking picture of the church. And if you don't self-regulate, government will regulate you. So it is better we do what? We self-regulate. That is advice from a friend. So, we recommended umbrella bodies and self-regulations. We recommended the establishment of a religious affairs commission to provide oversight of religious organizations. I am not sure myself today how popular that idea is, because I've also sent out my feelers about a religious affairs commission. I suspect what might work easier is probably a less powerful body, like a board, or just follow the route of the political parties act, where you just have a registrar. But don't create a commission. Commissions are not as popular, and I'm not sure that there is much appetite for them in government, especially when it comes to funding. And so I think that's a matter which really needs to be discussed, and I would be quite happy myself to climb down in my own right, not because the task force doesn't exist. So I can't, although I signed the bill, give it to the president myself, but that is a matter now. As I have listened, I know there are issues here with the commission. This probably needs to be framed as a board, less powerful, less threatening. A commission sounds very threatening. It's government this and government that. Overseeing the church, inspecting this, inspecting that. Auka nimeona kuna shida. Then there was the hata hiyo sasa itatusaidiana, naomba tu niache. Nafikiri nimeongea mambo ambayo nilitaka kuongea. And at some point, I hope there may be time for questions one can answer. But my dear brothers and sisters, as I finish, we went to Shakahola. And we went, and the day we went, 13 bodies had been exhumed. That is the English word, kutoa corpses from the ground, and they've been there for a long time. And the government pathologist looked at me. We were in shock, nobody was talking to another. The entire task force, there were 19 of us. He asked me, Reverend Musyemi, when this happened, where was the church? Did you hear the question? At that point, I thought of self-regulation. If there had been self-regulation, maybe this would not have happened. Number two, the following day we went to Kilifi County. That was our first meetings in terms of public hearings. And as the chairman, I chaired it. And there was a group of people from Malindi Pastors Fellowship. I didn't know who they were until that morning. And I kept hearing people who obviously knew the matter that what had gone on in Shakahola. And almost every one of them asked the question, very simple question. When this happened, where was the government? This is a crime, straight and simple. Where was the government? So in our report, we were dealing with two questions. Where was the church? And where was the government? Our report sought to speak to those two questions. And I thank you. God bless you.